There's actually two different questions I'm getting a lot in this market. One is who is buying these homes? How much money are they putting down? What type of financing are they doing? And the second is what can I do to get my offer accepted? So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to take a look at 23 different offers that I received on a listing that I have. And we're going to talk about the financing they did, we're going to talk about the price, and we're going to talk about what they did to help their offer stand out. So that hopefully it helps you if you're out there looking to buy a home to be more competitive to help your offer stand out. But before we do that, I'd like to take a minute and ask a favor. If you find any value in my videos at all, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up. Also, feel free to subscribe to the channel, not only to support the content, but to help me reach that goal of 100,000 subscribers. So for the better part of 2 years, I've been answering similar questions when people reach out to me asking, what can I do to help my offer stand out? And normally I like to start by saying, well, you have to be competitive with the price to start, right? So you can't go in with a low ball offer and have everything else the way we're going to discuss it today and stand out from the competition. In fact, you've got to do both. So in today's video, we're not going to be talking about coming in at the absolute highest price, right? Because that we can't control. But what I will say is that when you're writing an offer in the market at the moment, you need to go in with a line in the sand where essentially you're writing an offer where you have no regrets, because there's a really good chance you might not be getting a counteroffer. And the reason I say that is because I am writing offers for clients of mine, and oftentimes we're not getting a counteroffer because they're only countering the top one or two, or in some cases they're just picking the top offer. So you never get that opportunity to come back in and make your counteroffer, if you will. It's always frustrating when you have clients say, well, I was going to offer more when they counter me back. I just didn't want to start with that price. Well, unfortunately, you're in a market with low inventory. And yes, it is low buyer demand as well, but the two are balanced. And because of that, you have a competitive market in many markets out there. Now with that, I want to reiterate, all real estate is local. I'm located here in Southern California. My market is still very, very competitive because of the lack of inventory. If you're in a market that has a lot of inventory, you got properties sitting on the market, no one's buying them, then what I'm talking about today probably isn't going to apply to you. So just make sure you understand your local market when you're out there writing offers. And it usually starts with working with a professional agent. So just make sure you have one of those. If you don't, I put a link in the description below where you can connect with someone that I know, like, and trust that can guide you through that process. Now, aside from price, what can you do to help your offer stand out? Well, you can offer a little bit more on the escrow deposit. You can shorten your escrow time frame. You can shorten contingencies. You can waive contingencies. You can pay for some of the fees that the seller would normally pay for. As a buyer, you can pay those fees, so it's less money out of the seller's pocket. These are things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to look at 23 different offers. We're going to summarize, if you will, but we're going to talk about the things that they did to help their offer stand out. We're also going to talk about the things they didn't do that could have helped them stand out in this market. Now, at the time I'm filming this video, the home was only on the market for 2 days. So we showed it both on a Saturday and a Sunday during an open house for 3 hours. So there were 6 hours of showings, and with that we received 23 different offers. Now this property was priced at $810,000. It was in the city of Lakewood. Now some might say that the property was underpriced. We actually priced it on what we believed it was worth based on the comparables in the market. Now with that said, at $810,000 we were aggressively priced because it was a nice house with all of the major things done. It was a turnkey property. You could have just moved in and lived and not had to do absolutely anything, and there was a lot of appeal to that. At the same time, $810,000 in that market is more or less the price point where a lot of homes are selling. So I wouldn't necessarily say that we're below the median or above the median. And the reason I bring this up, because a lot of people are watching this video out of state and they're going, Jeb, $810,000, that's absolutely insane. Who would buy that property? Who could buy that property? Well, unfortunately, in our market, $810,000 is kind of the lower end of the price point. And with that, we had 23 different offers. So as I mentioned earlier, the purchase price was $810,000. We received 23 offers, and the prices ranged from $809,000 up to $900,000 at the time I'm filming this video. Now, something important to note, we actually have a counter offer out to the top 3 offers at the moment. So there's a really good chance that the price goes a little bit higher. But even at $900,000, we're 11% above our purchase price. Only one offer was below our asking price. 22 offers were above that asking price. In fact, 14 of those offers were above $850,000. So just to backtrack a little bit here, we had 14 offers that were $40,000 above the asking price. Now, some of you watching the video might be saying, well, $850,000 is where it should have been priced. Well, okay, that could be fair in this argument. So with that said, there were actually 7 offers above $860,000. So even if we're saying the property was priced below where it should have been and should have been priced at $850,000, we still had 7 offers that were $10,000 above that price. So you're probably watching this going, okay, well, what types of loans were they doing? How much money were they putting down? Well, there were actually 2 cash offers. So we had 2 different buyers willing to pay cash on the property. At the same time, we had 2 FHA offers. In fact, one of the FHA offers was one of the better offers that we received. And that leaves 21 offers. And those other 21 were all conventional offers. And so you're probably wondering, how much money were they putting down? Well, out of the 23 offers, only 4 people were putting less than 10% down. 2 of those were FHA, as I mentioned. The other 2 were 5% down. All the other offers, the other 19 offers, if you will, had at least 10% to put down. In fact, there were a total of 11 offers putting less than 20% down, which left 12 people putting at least 20% down to buy that home. Several buyers doing more than 50% down. And out of the 23 total, 7 of those people waived the appraisal, 5 of them waived the loan, but no one waived all the contingencies. So all 23 offers kept something in place with regards to contingencies, and the shortest time frame we saw on any offer was 10 days, which means things aren't quite as crazy as they were a year and a half ago when people were waiving all the contingencies and shortening things down to more or less nothing. So in this market, people are waiving some contingencies, but they're keeping some in place, but more or less they're shortening contingencies. But no one in this process got super aggressive on those contingencies. And something I didn't mention earlier in the video, 10 of the 23 offers all put 3% down towards the earnest money deposit. Now here in the state of California, 3% is more or less the max that you would put down as a buyer, because the seller can't take any more than that if you were to fall out of contract. So 3% is more or less the number that agents are looking for when they're listing properties. But with that, 10 people offered less than the 3% deposit. And these are all things that I'm going to talk about here in a minute, because these are things that help your offer stand out. The reason I'm going over what people did versus what others did is to show you as a listing agent and somebody that works with a lot of sellers what sellers are looking for in the offer and what I as a listing agent are also looking for that I can relay to my client in order to show the strength of an offer. Now earlier in the video we talked about what are some fees that maybe you as a buyer can pay that the seller doesn't have to pay. And one of those things can be the home warranty. Some cases I pay the home warranty for my buyer just so that it's a fee that the seller doesn't have to pay and maybe makes our offer look a little bit different than everything else. Well, out of 23 offers, 20 people ask for the seller to pay the home warranty. So in this case, it was more or less standard across the board. Now there is no standard, but more or less everybody but 3 people asked for that home warranty. But there was one thing we didn't see a lot of, and that was termite. Only 7 of the 23 people asked for termite. The other 16 borrowers did not ask for termite. So here in the state of California, it's pretty typical for a buyer to request termite and Section 1 clearance. Because Lakewood isn't located that far from the ocean, you have a lot of moisture in the air, and because of that, you have termites and they eat wood. And so typically as a buyer, you want that taken care of. But because this house is really well maintained and all the major things have been done, I think buyers took that into account and didn't ask for termite, which was honestly quite surprising for me as the agent. Now, when it came to escrow time frame, there were 6 people that asked for 30 days. So that means there were 17 people that asked for something different. In fact, all 17 asked for less than a 30-day escrow. And oftentimes that can make your offer stand out. Because this property is vacant and no one is living in there, you can actually do a quick close. And so a lot of buyers here saw an opportunity to be a little bit more aggressive. And with that, 8 people came in at a 21-day escrow, which is more or less really aggressive, with 2 people coming in less than 21 days, which leaves the majority of the people asking for 25. So we had a lot of people asking for 21 or less days, which can really help your offer stand out out against the competition. Now, in this case, it didn't because there were a lot of offers at a similar time frame, but that's something you need to keep in mind when you're out there writing offers is how can you help your offer stand out? Well, that's definitely one of the things, and we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. Now, out of 23 offers, only one offer came in with an escalation clause. Now, I've talked about escalation clauses in the past, and for the better part of a year, they went away because the market was changing a little bit, inventory was starting to build a little bit, people thought there was going to be a housing crash, and the market was turning over, and so people stopped doing escalation clauses. Well, escalation clauses are one thing you can do as a buyer to help your offer stand out. Now, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, it's essentially offering a price, but coming in with a clause, if you will, that says that you're willing to go to a higher number if an offer comes in at a certain price. So an example might be, hey, we're willing to offer $850,000, but we're willing to pay $2,000 more than your highest offer up to a price of, say, $875, which means that we get an offer at $870, your offer automatically goes to $872. Now, I know there are some agents out there that don't like it and don't accept escalation clauses, but me as an agent, I think it's a creative way for buyers to be able to get what they want in many cases. And you're not doing anything illegal, you're not doing anything unethical by doing it. It's just something that your seller needs to be okay with. So in this example, we only had one offer that did that. And in the case of that offer, it really helped that offer stand out because it took their offer up to a price that made them really competitive. So when we recap here and talk about the things that you can do in this market to help your offer stand out, I'll just talk about the things that we looked at as an agent with my client, the seller, and what we talked about. So we talked about shortening the escrow time period. So we looked at the offers that decided to shorten the escrow time period. We also took into consideration, because we had so many offers above the asking price, we looked at those that waived the appraisal, waived the loan, shortened contingencies. Those were things that we paid a lot of attention to. We also talked about the type of loan. Now, my client was one of those that thought an FHA loan was for first-time home buyers. And because I talk a lot about FHA on my channel, I was able to talk through it with them and let them know that it really wasn't a bad loan. And we talked about the pros and cons of going with an FHA loan. But what I will tell you is that what made that offer stand out with FHA more than anything else was that their lender contacted me. I only had one lender call me out of 23 offers. So 2 of them were cash, so I didn't expect a call from a lender. There were 21 offers that required a loan. Only one lender called me to talk about their client. And I'll be honest, it helped their offer stand out because it showed me the type of agent, the type of lender that I'd likely be dealing with on the other side. In addition, they were able to talk about the strength of their client, which I think is really, really positive. So earlier I said, make sure you're working with a professional. So not only should your agent be reaching out, having the conversation, asking, is there anything important to the seller? Is there anything they want to see? I had a lot of agents ask me that question, and that is really, really good. That's a good place to start. All agents should be doing that. But at the same time, when you're submitting that offer, your mortgage professional should also be reaching out, in my opinion, to speak on your behalf, just so they can answer any questions, just so they can help confirm what a strong buyer you are, and that might actually help your offer stand out. And the last thing I would suggest is talking about contingencies. Earlier we talked about, which contingencies were waived, but we also looked at those that were shorter. Which contingencies could get the buyer through the process quicker so that my client, the seller, knew that they had a solid deal and they didn't have to worry about going back to market. They didn't have to worry about not packing up because, the deal might fall apart. So those are really the things that I would focus on as a buyer out there. So as a buyer, just understand there's a lot of competition. And in some markets, it might be really, really tough to get a property. And honestly, as an agent out there, I felt really bad because there were a lot of really, really nice couples that came through, a lot of single people that came through as well, really nice people that I had good conversation with, that I wanted them to get the house, but unfortunately there was only one home, and that's the really difficult part of this job, is knowing that 22 of those people weren't going to get that property when they absolutely loved it. In fact, some of those people spent hours in there with me during that period of time. So just keep that in mind when you're out there looking. Make sure you're competitive. Make sure you're not going to have regrets with your offer expecting something different. Offer something that you're comfortable with, that you're not going to have regrets about, and that if it doesn't go through, you just have to understand it wasn't meant to be and you move on. Now, I know that's difficult, But as a buyer, you have to buy logically, not emotionally. Don't get caught up in the hoopla and the FOMO and all of that. Just do what you can do, focus on what you can control, and hopefully that results in you winning the property. But if you have additional questions about buying a home in this market, the things that you need to focus on, do me a favor and check out this video here.